Even in 2026, we still need to be running our Google ads and understanding the fundamentals even before we've launched a campaign. So in today's video, I want to show you how I still approach Google ads using the keyword planner, and how you can also look at your competitors based on the keyword planner to see what keywords they are targeting. So the keyword planner is a free resource that we have within Google ads, and too many times I see advertisers just skipping steps now because they just want to use AI to launch campaigns as quickly as possible. But we still need to have the basis. We still need to have the understanding of what keywords we're going to target and look at the cost per click. And then we can work out our budgets based on the fundamentals. So remember, the keyword planner is a fantastic tool that Google provides us, but also it gives us data of the past year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And the past is often a way that we can tell what's going to happen in the future based on volume. And it's one of the ways that if I'm trying to explain to a client or a potential client when I'm auditing an account, how can I predict certain trends that are going to happen in the future? Well, I can look at the past 2, 3, 4 years of data, and then from there we can kind of forecast what's going to happen in the future. And that's the basis for everything that we do. We're trying to take as much data points within Google and use those to our advantage. But we can't necessarily skip this using AI, which I see time and time again. Advertisers just jumping straight into AI and using that to build out campaigns. We just need to stick to the fundamentals. So let's jump into a campaign and actually go through how we build out the keyword planner based on a particular product or a service. I'm going to choose garden furniture because for that it's very relevant. We're coming into the summer period, and potentially we could use the keyword planner to find out the right types of keywords and the volume that we could then incorporate into a Google Ads campaign. So what we need to do now is jump into the keyword planner, and then I can run through the process. This is not a step that we want to be missing, but it doesn't actually take that long once you understand what kind of data points that we need when we're running Google Ads. And this is the step that I see a lot of advertisers skipping. They want to jump straight into a chat GPT to build out campaigns. We still need to do the fundamentals. And even in 2026, I know I've mentioned 2026 a few times, and the reason is we need to be relevant with our campaign. So to get to the keyword planner, on the left-hand side, jump to tools, and then you'll see the keyword planner. Click on that, and then you'll be seeing this particular page. So you discover new keywords, get search, volume, and forecasts, organize keywords into ad groups. We want to be focusing on discover new keywords. And again, a couple of options. We can start with a website. So if you wanted to know what the competitors are doing, you could put in the competitor's website, click on search, and then it will give you some ideas on keywords, volume, and all the data that we need to look at competitors' search terms or the keywords that they're targeting within Google, which is a great way that you could potentially start your research. And this is the research of the fundamentals to build out those good quality campaigns that we want to see initially when we start running our Google ads. So I'm going to start with a keyword. Now, the type of business I'm going to do is an e-commerce store, only because again, it doesn't matter if you've got experience or not. I particularly do have a lot of experience with furniture companies and kind of outdoor companies. But if you didn't, then this would be a great place to understand what keywords you could potentially target in your Google ads. So let's pretend I don't have any experience. So I'm looking here. So we could look at maybe focusing on, say, garden chairs. So come back into the keyword planner, start with the keywords, and let's do garden. And then from here, garden chairs. And then we click off of here, and then we get that highlighted. And then all we do is click on results. Obviously, the more you put in, then the more you're going to get. But you've got garden chairs. Let's put in garden seating, get results. And the more data we put in, then obviously the more information we're going to get from Google. What else could we do? Patio chairs. We could put patio chairs. So let's just, as an example, and again, there's different ways that we can do this, but just patio chairs. We've got 3 different keywords that we've entered into Google, and then from there what we can see is some data starting to form. So I've got 3 keywords. Now the way that I would approach this would be to look at the data, and let's start with this information that we're getting from the keyword planner. And this will tell you, people often ask me, is £50, is £100, is £500 enough to run Google ads for a day, a month, or whatever you're looking at? And I always ask this fundamental question is, how much is it for you to bid on the keyword that you're targeting based on this data. And this tells you exactly. So the low range for garden chairs, based on the information that we've input into Google, is between 15 pence and the high is 55. So what you would do, look at the high, times it by 10. If you times it by 10, that will give you a minimum amount based on 10 clicks per day over 30 days. So you need to then work out, that will tell you your budget that you need per day based on using this keyword. And again, you would then align that with the rest of the keywords within the targeting. So if your kind of hybrid range was 55 for this keyword, and then the garden seating was 72, you could look at adding in, kind of looking at both the keywords. And then what you would want to do would make sure that if somebody clicked on garden seating or garden share, based on the high range, would you have enough budget to get 10 clicks a day as a minimum? If you're spending a lot more, a larger budget, then this is fine. You would know you would have enough budget. But obviously, when you start getting into the realms of, if you're a service-based industry, particularly in countries like Australia, plumbing, electrician, you're talking one click, you're talking 60, 70, 80, 90 dollars for one click. So you need to make sure that you have the data and you're running enough budget to make sure that you're getting at least 10 clicks a day. If you're not, you're going to struggle. And it's as simple as that. But we can see here that something like, say, around a £6-7 a day budget would be enough to get this going. You wouldn't run that, you'd run more. But as an example, at the minimum you would need would be the budget times 10 based off of this data. And again, we're looking at the average monthly search volume. So we can see here that we're getting between 10K and 100K volume for garden chairs. So again, we could see the data there. And then looking at the monthly change, we can see the patio chairs plus 900%. So potentially patio chairs could be a good one to build the campaign around based off of the data. So slightly cheaper. And again, if we look at this and we see, say, garden chairs are too expensive, you don't need to target garden chairs. You can look at alternatives based off of this information, which might suit your budget. If you're running a slightly smaller budget, remember, Google works around the meaning of the term, not necessarily the keyword you're targeting. It's the theme around there. And you're building out themes based on ad groups anyway. So if you put all this data together, you don't necessarily have to go for the most expensive keyword, because a lot of people are going to target that. You can look at alternatives, and you can see here straight away that we're getting a lot of data based off of that. So again, if I look at, again, we've got some more information that we could potentially look at. If I jump into some more kind of data based around the 2024 to 2026, again, that will just update, making a little bit more relevant for what we were looking for based off of the information that we have. So now we have all of this data, we can look over to the right and we can again see refined keywords, brand or non-brand. Again, we could build out exclusion lists based off of this. So even before you've run a campaign, again, you can start excluding if you didn't want to target IKEA, B&M, B&Q, Amazon, all these companies here on the right. You can see the amount of keywords that we have for each of these brands. And this is, again, a great way of adding in your negative keywords even before you've launched the campaign as an exclusion list. So again, you're getting so much data here that I see people just missing out, launching campaigns, letting Google waste your budget, and there's just no need for that. So again, all the data that we need is here. And what we're looking at is based off what we're seeing: garden chairs, garden seating, patio chairs. This could be based around a keyword, an ad group based around the keyword themes. And then we could potentially look at opening up another ad group based around keyword themes. Again, we could look at, say, garden table and chairs, or depending on, or patio table and chairs, like dual, so a table and a chair together. Again, this is around the meaning based off of what we're trying to do. A better way that we could also look at is, one thing when I look at websites, is look at the actual structure of the headings. And again, we could look to target, say, lounging sets or modular sofas and sets, based the keyword themes or the ad groups around these, coffee and side tables. So again, you would look to target based around the keyword themes. And this is how I would start my ad groups, based around the data that we have. So speak to a client potentially and ask them, what products or what services they wanted to push, then do the research, which we've just gone through. And again, this is the same for service-based as it is for e-commerce. We're doing e-commerce because I think that's a little bit more of a myth. People just think you can just launch and go from there, but it still needs So look, 10, 15 minutes of research to get the right keywords. And you can see the volume, you can see forecasts, you can then see if you've got enough budget. Like I said, all of this together gives you a much better basis to run your Google Ads to get a more successful campaign. That is exactly what we want to do. So if you like this type of video, let me know. If you want me to audit your account, then just fill out the form below. Always happy to give you a free audit, and then potentially we can look at ways that we can improve your Google Ads in 2026.